How are you? Welcome. I didn't catch your name.
Scott, nice to meet you.
Scott Lance Martin. Scott, I think is gonna be our
Yes.
guest agent unless I really mess this up today. So
It's all good, don't worry about it.
I'm gonna do my best. You know, every now and then I can be less than impressive. So hopefully today's not one of those days. Scott. So, all right, guys. So welcome. Let's jump in. Our waiting room again, it just drives me crazy that everyone knows I start these meetings on time, but we just can't seem to get here. So we're in Marina Valley. Obviously that is a mistake. Messed that up. So we'll be Covina and then Claremont. Yeah, we got a little time warp going. So, how we doing? I thought we'd have, you're hot. Okay, well, good. That's not exactly where I was going with that. So, I know I just can't help myself, but I mean, if there's ever been a time to talk about the commission stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because as we've been talking about it so much, every time a sales meeting starts, I'm like, okay, well, today we're not going to talk about it too much. And then today we've talked about it. Today, we're not going to talk about it too much. But, we're going to talk about it. And we're probably going to spend the whole meeting chatting about it. So. How are we doing, Brandon?
Good.
I'm glad you're good, but your listing yesterday that we chatted about, what did you decide? What did we do? So let me set the stage, guys. And if you're on the Zoom, just pay attention and unmute yourself. I know my back is to you, but let's break this up in 2 or 3 pieces. Who's taking a listing? Yesterday, today, tomorrow. And what are you gonna do? Since I called on Brandon first and I have a little bit of history because we spent an hour yesterday talking about it. So what's your plan on this listing?
Well,
And speak loud so we all can hopefully hear on the mic. Or yeah, there you go. That's even better.
yeah, I'm gonna, on the new listing agreement, I'm doing 3%.
3% to the listing broker.
To the listing broker.
Okay,
And then, my client has agreed to pay a total of 5%.
okay.
And then, so there will be 2% in compensation.
Okay, so let's pause there. And I have a little bit of forewarning with Brandon. We talked about this yesterday. So on your listing, you're putting 3% of the listing office. If you had taken this listing 6 months ago, what would that have number have been to Coldwell Banker Town and Country? Would it have been 3 or would it have been something different than 3?
I probably would have been 2.5.
2.5. Okay. Because in part, and again, we talked about this, your seller was basically comfortable at a 5% number
Yes.
and you would have done a 2.5, 2.5. So today we're at 3.
Mhm.
Good. I like that. So what are you gonna do with that 2%? How are you gonna put that out there, or are you gonna put that out there?
Well, right now, I like what John said, I'm gonna do the commercial thing and negotiate,
Okay.
what we were talking about yesterday.
Okay. So your plan is you're gonna keep that 2% in your pocket and you're not gonna market that 2%. And obviously we can't put it in the MLS. So, right, can't do that. We know that's out. So you're just gonna say, hey, so if I'm calling you, I call you. Hey, Brandon, Lance at Coldwell Banker. I love your listing on 123 Main Street. I'm gonna be showing it tomorrow. Well, by the way, I see the seller's willing to offer concessions in the MLS. I see you've got the yes or the checkbox. What is that, by the way? Is it a checkbox or does it yes, no?
I haven't even seen it. I haven't seen it.
I'm looking right now.
Wow.
Give me a minute.
Nobody knows the answer to that, including me.
That I know of, that I checked, I don't think there's
I think
anything.
it's a checkbox.
I think so, so you just a
Well,
little-
somebody find out. That's gonna drive me crazy. So nobody knows if it's a yes, no, or a checkbox?
Visually,
Ooh, wow, that's a bad look for us. We're gonna cut that part out of the video. Okay, so anyway, I see that you've checked the box, or you said yes, your seller's willing to offer concessions. Would you mind sharing that with me before I show the property? And your response is going to be?
Go look at the property, see if your client likes it, and be willing to put in an offer. We can negotiate.
Okay, I think that's, and I don't know if everybody likes that.
No.
Rachel hates it. And I get it, and so Rachel will go next. who,
Circling back, that there's the box that says seller will consider concessions and offer. I've looked at 20 listings,
Blank.
none of them has anything filled out.
but what is but I wanna know what the field is though. Go like,
Yes or no?
it's a yes or no. Okay, so,
All those listings I looked at, nobody. that was just
Probably
blank.
don't even know the
Nobody's
box.
filled it out.
Got it.
Yeah,
Well, I just
Yeah.
looked at the all single stories listed in Riverside in the past 24 hours, and 90% of them still have a commission percentage in there.
well, yeah, well, that's gonna come, up. That's, you guys okay, if you didn't hear Drew, we'll get to that in a minute, but 90% of the listings, by the way, you're saying listings that were listed
Within the last 24 hours.
and it still says 1%, 2%, 3%? Okay, so not to digress, but that's stripped out next Tuesday, the 13th, whatever the 13th is, that's gone. So all of those brand new listings, so these are agents that took brand new listings over the last 2, 3, 4 days. Their sellers, so let's just take Brandon, for example. Your seller said, I'm gonna do 5%, you're taking 3, you're gonna offer 2. If you were one of those agents, and I think frankly, if you were Rachel, I don't put words in Rachel's mouth, at least today, those agents said, hey, I'm offering 2%. It's in the MLS, it's going to be there until next Wednesday. By the way, Rachel, if you took a listing today, would you do that? Okay, you would do that. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm gonna define Brandon's option as the commercial option. I don't know if I like that necessarily, but John Menke and others have had conversations about, that's kind of how the commercial guys do it. Now, some of them will put the number out there, they'll just put it out there, but others are like, yeah, write it up. This is what your offer is. You bring me a full price offer or above full price or whatever you give me, geez, well, maybe we'll do this. You bring me an offer at list price, or maybe you bring me an offer at below list price or whatever happens to be, with the contingency and a whole bunch of other things. Write it up. Okay, so what are you gonna do, Rachel? And what are you gonna do and how are you gonna do it?
so if someone calls.
Yep.
And you said, just like you did, do you mind sharing it with me? Yeah, it's 2.5%.
Yep.
Okay, great. We'll show the house, perfect. Then they send the offer, if it's 2.5, great, if it's more, then we negotiate, if it's less, even better, they weren't paying attention.
Yep.
But as a community as a whole, and having the fiduciary duty to our sellers, if I have a house and I get 10 calls in the first day.
Okay.
And I share with all of them, yep, 2.5%, okay, great. They all make appointments, they all come, maybe I get 3 offers, and now my seller is in the best. They're in the best option to select the best buyer. Now, if I go with the other approach. And go, oh, well, yeah, go view it and we'll negotiate later.
Yep.
I can't even guess what that percentage is. But how many of those agents are gonna go,
Won't show it.
no, I'm not gonna show it, so
Yep.
now maybe my 10 calls turn into 2 showings,
Yep.
no offers.
Yep.
And now the house maybe sits for a few
And,
weeks.
and that is, I think, the perfect distinction. And Rachel used the term fiduciary. So I'm gonna restate, if I get it wrong, tell me. Rachel fills her fiduciary to Shirley, to
Yeah.
her fiduciary, to her seller. In order to fulfill her fiduciary duty, she feels I need to disclose what the seller has agreed. Because if I don't, I'm gonna lose a certain number of people that just aren't gonna show it, that otherwise would have.
Right.
Okay, I think there's a lot of people that will agree with that. And honestly, I agree with both. I see both of these. I see that happening, but then I can also see, so now let's go back to the fiduciary. And you guys probably love it or hate it when I give you this example. You guys know I'm a big REO guy. Okay, so to me, this is very similar, different, I agree, but similar to back in the day. I've got a Fannie Mae listing or maybe a hedge fund listing. And again, I think a lot of this, by the way, is completely dependent upon market conditions. Are we in a buyer's market? Or are we in a seller's market? Because I'm gonna give you completely different answers on the market, but let's use a Fannie Freddie example. I have a listing, it's a hot listing, I got 9 offers on it. But obviously, I started with 1 and then 2 and then 3. And then the second agent calls and says, hey, is a property available? Oh, yeah, Mr. John, it is. But I did get an offer yesterday. We're gonna be presenting tomorrow. And John says, what? What does John ask me? How much? Thank you. Are you in business already?
License.
Well, if you're not, you're answering these questions perfectly.
I,
And the new guy over here.
I have a tax office,
Okay.
but where I rent my tax office is inside a broker's office.
Oh, so you're listening. I got it.
And
Okay.
my mom did real estate for years, so I kind of know the industry.
All right.
I just been
Well-
lazy enough not to get the
Well,
license, so now.
I don't know if I'm impressing you or not, but you
Oh,
are
look.
impressing me.
No,
So,
no,
all right.
no, thank you.
Okay, so with back in the Fannie Mae days, they would call and I say, oh, John, I love you, but our policy is not to disclose what the other offers are, just bring us in highest and best. And there's a whole bunch of reasons behind that. John's upset, right? I'm not a very good community activist in the real estate world. Because now I got 8 other agents. Jesus, dude, Lance, really? Drew, really? I don't want to waste my time. I don't want, if you have all these offers above list. And I've even told you, the agent says, Lance, I can go full price. I can't go above full price. Would you please just tell me at full price, am I even in the ballpark? And my answer would be,
Submit your highest and best.
submit your highest and best. And guess what? I ain't making any friends. Now, I could turn to, I could turn to my agents, which was true, by the way. And this is gonna sound like a cop out, but to me, this is true. John, I'm so sorry. I would love to, but my client's policy, which is true, is not to disclose the offers. And John would still say, well, that really sucks. And I hate you. I hate all you REO guys. Because you're not a very good realtor in the community because you make life so difficult. And then I would say, I would use the F word. I'd fiduciary duty to my client. And my fiduciary duty to my client, which by the way, it might make me the bad guy in the community, which might mean I don't want to be Fannie Mae listing broker. But am I representing my client in the absolute best possible way for my seller? Damn straight.
Well, that depends. Does your seller live in the home? In which case, if you know they can
I
only
do-
do list price, you just wasted their time and the community agent's time.
I would, but there's a million.
Saying, I got prices over list, don't waste your time, and I'm not gonna waste my seller's time.
Yep.
Because they have.
But this is my
down
problem, though.
load.
This is the problem, and you're not wrong, but now I tell John, dude, you're wasting your time. Okay, because I like John, and I don't wanna waste his time. I hang up the phone. And then John's at Coldwell Banker Town and Country, he's sitting next to Chris. And we're talking about this property, oh yeah, Lance has got this property, Drew's got this property over here. And John's like, yeah, I just got off the phone with him, and offers are above list, tell him that to Chris. Isn't it right? It's a small town. Or maybe I do tell John. I tell John it's this, but I don't tell Robbie. Because I forget, or Robbie doesn't ask. Anyway, so these are very interesting questions. I think they're very analogous. To Rachel's point, and this is the part we all gotta be, guys, there are a lot of people that think I'm a complete jerk, more so Drew than me. Because,
I'm
I mean, on a regular basis, you agree.
I'm.
But because you worked with Fannie Mae. You're evil, you're rotten, you did all this foreclosure, you did damage to the market. Oh, I can't believe you worked with these hedge funds. Who would want to, how could you work with the hedge fund? You're such a sellout, okay? And frankly, even people within the industry, guys, Drew and Drake and I go up to Bakersfield, the Coldwell Banker office in Bakersfield doesn't like us. We were not good community people because we represented our fiduciary to our seller. And they all had a difficult time with that. Okay, so I see both of these. And I agree with both of these. I think both of these. So my question is, so let's put it out to the group. Who's doing something different than that? Or is there something in between that you're gonna do? What do you got?
And I still don't know exactly how I'm going to do this. I think it's gonna take some market feeling out for a
Yep.
while. But my intent for the most part is to present all the options to my seller and let them make the decision. So I think we kind of take what you were just talking about, that, this is what my seller wants approach. And so I say, look, you might be able to save some money on the commission if we just tell them, look, I'm gonna tell you that we'll pay a commission, but I can't tell you what it is, submit your highest and best offer.
Yep.
Or, I can say, well, you might get more showings, especially in this market right now where it's tough to get the showings.
Yep, which is
If
Rachel's
we
comment, at least in
actually
part.
Disclose how much you're gonna pay, and maybe you want to pay a little bit more.
Yep.
So I think you need to have that whole conversation with the seller. And, you know, how tight are they on the finances? How quickly do they want to sell? All of those things, and then let the seller decide,
Okay.
and not that we're the decider.
Randy first and then Lee.
Just real quick, this might be me being ignorant, but I agree with Rachel. If before this all happened, you guys put your commission into the MLS, right? You advertised it.
Well,
And you willingly, you put it in there willingly to tell the buyers what you were offering.
correct.
Just because they removed that, why would
Well,
you not still be?
Not necessarily the
Why would
buyers.
Why would the practice change? Because
If
essentially.
if all I'm changing is the phone call, that's the only thing that's changing is the phone call now.
Well,
And
let
I
me,
would say my seller is willing to pay you 2%.
it is, but there's
And that's why-
there's a conflict. We're, and I got you, there's a conflict going on.
And
And
I'm
the conflict
ignorant,
is,
but-
we in the industry have done this forever for a bunch of reasons. The reason, by honest guy, I don't want to go too far into the weeds. The reason the commission is in the MLS, going back from the beginning of time, was we had a contractual arrangement. We're both members of the MLS. We don't want to have to negotiate commissions as part of the offer. So going back to the beginning of time, I'm taking a listing, this is what my sellers are willing to offer as cooperative compensation, we would put that in there. And then we as the industry would see that. Agents, not necessarily buyers and sellers, well, not necessarily buyers, the seller obviously knows. But the agents would see that and they say, okay, if I show Brandon's property, this is what I'm gonna get. Okay, and I don't have to worry about at close of escrow, Brandon saying, oh, I'm not gonna pay you that. We, the industry, had a contract as being members of the MLS that says whatever that is what we're gonna get paid. And we don't have to have these commission disputes. Now, that's gotten lost in all of this.
Yeah.
But this is the challenge. Department of Justice basically says, and again, I'm gonna play devil's advocate to Rachel's position, and I think a lot of people's position. Is Department of Justice in part says, okay, you're putting all this commission out. By the way. Who has not shown a property because the commission was less than the others across the street?
That's what I was just gonna say.
You specifically have steered as an agent. This is where we're the bad guys.
Yeah.
And this is where the plaintiffs in this case have a case. As an industry, I've gone through the MLS. 3%, 3%, 2%, 2%, 1%, 1%. I don't even know what this is, $400. And said. I ain't showing that.
But I really want to see that one, Mr. Agent.
Which one is that?
But somebody died in that house,
Yeah, well,
so we don't want to go there.
Can joke about it. And we can come up with the super extreme examples, but that's part of the challenge. That's one of the, you guys have heard steering.
Why you're here.
This is the steering argument.
Yeah.
And I've never done that in my life, okay? Now, again, we solved that a little bit because then we could sit back and say, okay, this agent over here is offering $500, it's limited service or whatever it happens to be. And the house, that's the house my client wants. The one over here, oh geez, they're paying a 4% commission here, bonus on this one. Okay, but we're like, well, let's go over here and let's negotiate with this house that's got the crappy commission. No, well, that's too much, it's too much work. I don't want to, let's go over here. That's part of the problem. So when you look at Rachel's example, which I think I don't know what's going to be, we'll find out 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now, because I don't think there's going to be, I think there's going to be these two, and I think there's going to be a few others. Okay, and there's going to be a few others out there. But the challenge, of course, is as we start. So again, now I call Rachel. And I call John and I call Lee. My client wants to see all 3 of these houses. I ask. Rachel says, yeah, we're offering 2.5%. Lee says, what are you doing over there? Lee says, 1. And then John says, submit. That sounds like trouble. You're cheap. I'm gonna go. So what have I just done? I've done the exact
You
same
just
thing.
took 3 phone calls to get there.
Done the exact same thing.
Right.
Okay, so this is where this whole DOJ thing. They're gonna be looking at this. And they're gonna be taking a peek at how was this done? You know, I see these cute ass little, by the way, don't do this. If I see anybody doing this, we're gonna have a talk. And if we can't agree, you can no longer work at Coldwater Banker Town and Country. Okay, you will be, you know, we have a few things, you know, treat yourself, treat your clients well, be professional. There's a lot of very cute social media posts going out there. A picture of a key in a lockbox. And the key tag says, you know, 3% commission. Okay, on the key tag. or whatever.
Yeah, that is smart. I love it.
This is the thing. I've seen these things and I know the people that are doing them. You guys have all seen these things. They're funny. I laugh at them and I say, that's funny, okay? Which, by the way, you shouldn't be posting that shit. Don't be posting that stuff. That's the type of stuff that generally, that's the type of stuff that somebody takes a screenshot of, sends it over to some attorney and says, oh, ABC Coldwell Banker broker is doing this. They're not helping. We're not helping in that situation. But it's gonna be interesting. So hey, Paul, are you unmuted for a reason or are you just open? Paul Lazo. Paul? Okay, that was probably an accident.
Yeah, that's the part I'm not struggling with, but it's just. These buyers are gonna find the houses on Zillow, Realtor.com.
Yep.
And they want to see that house.
Yep.
I think they're gonna find someone to show them that house.
Of course they are. Of
Plus,
course
in
they
the conversation on the listing side, and again, we don't spend as much time talking about it, but if I get a call, someone asking me what the. Concessions, and we keep doing kind of compensation
Yep.
commission, what the concessions are.
Yep.
I think my first question is, what do you guys have on your VRBC? What discussions have you had with the buyer? About what they're willing to pay?
Okay, well,
Well, I
that's,
think we're gonna get a lot of phone calls too, where it's like, hey, what's it gonna take for us to get the offer accepted?
okay, so that's that boy, perfect setup.
Yeah.
And Leap and I kind of talked about this a little bit. I'm gonna, let's do this. Let's bring this back to Rachel's example.
And nobody talks
Okay.
about that, but I feel like
So-
it's the VRBC is where the conversation.
Okay,
is.
well, we're gonna, let me set the foundation and then we're gonna jump on Chris's or on Drew's example.
Well, I know.
Okay,
you don't know
so,
what that number is.
Sherry's my buyer.
And
okay, guys.
When they go to shut it.
Hold on, we'll do it as a group.
No.
We'll do it as a group. Hold on. Was that a good one? Did I miss it?
This is gonna be a good one.
Okay, all right.
I was gonna say this a second ago, is playing, you could play devil's advocate on every single one of these scenarios. You can pull
Yep.
holes in every single one of these scenarios.
Yep.
Because there's so much of Rachel's that I would agree with. And
Me
I
too.
respect her opinion as being one of the top agents. I was gonna poke some holes in what everybody is saying, but I just think we need to be fluid. I don't think we should dig our heels in the sand on any one of our
Yep.
opinions. But yes, that's about to be a great conversation.
Yeah, that's why I missed it, but we're gonna get that conversation in a second, but I actually like what you just said. Guys, I think we need to be very fluid on this. I think you're gonna have to sit back and say, this is the circumstance on this particular property, and this is where I think we should go. And then quite honestly, I'll be the first one to admit, I'm very open on this. I'm very open-minded. Chris and I were talking about a couple of things yesterday and I was down at Inman in Las Vegas. And I have opinions. I think this is probably better. I think this is probably where I would go, but that doesn't mean I'm married to that. I'm like, I can see a lot of situations. So let's do the BRBC disclosure thing. So let me set this up. Okay, so we have a listing who says submit. We have a listing that says I'm publishing 2.5% compensation, whatever it happens to be. But I'm a buyer's agent and I don't know that yet. So I haven't even seen those properties. So I run into Sherry and Sherry's my buyer and I run into Scott and now I'm having that conversation, which is a whole different conversation. Okay? But I'm having that conversation and we're gonna go out and look at properties. And Sherry and I, and again, how are we gonna present that? For argument's sake, let's just suppose that I'm not a very strong agent. Okay, I'm not anybody in this room. I'm not a very strong agent. Let's just say I'm the average agent.
I can help you set
Okay.
this up. Let's suppose I signed the Zillow form. that
Or even
says
that one.
Oh, the
We're dating
touring
for-
Or even that one.
7
Yeah.
days. We signed the
Zillow
touring
touring.
agreement.
Okay.
It doesn't specify.
So let's start with that. And again, I gotta be careful, because I've said a few things in these sales meetings over the last several months that might have implied that I'm not respectful of buyers agents. Okay, and I'm minimizing buyers agents. I don't mean to do that, because you guys are all killers. But can we also agree, there's a lot of agents out there that are not killers? There's a lot of agents out there that are not killers. So right now, I should show this on the screen, but let's just assume I have, Paul, why do you keep unmuting yourself? That could be really dangerous. Okay, so I know there's a few options here. So I've got a couple of buyers I'm working with, and I am not a killer, okay? I can go straight to the BRBC, the 5-page, what CAR is deeming the gold standards of buyer representation right now. I can go to the other one, it's the acronym for the 2-page version, the watered down one, the PSB, whatever the heck it is. You guys with me? Here, hold on a minute. Let me get it up like an, so you've got the other one, which is basically, I'm gonna show a couple properties option, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I've got it here. Hold on a minute. I've got it right. Here it is. Okay, so let's open that up. Okay. Okay, so, oops, that's the seller side. Let's do the buyer side.
PSRA.
Okay, I can do this one, buyer's representation, the 5-page. Hey, I'm gonna sign a contract maximum of 90 days, 90 days. I can show all of the properties that are within the defined scope. Everything in Riverside County, whatever it happens to be. And, oh, by the way, I know my value, I can articulate my value, and you're gonna agree to pay me 3% commission. Okay? Or I can say, well, wow, this Misty and I had a conversation about this a couple of days ago. I'm like, yeah, that one's a little tougher. Okay, let me use the property showing the representation agreement, the PSRA. I call it the 2-page form, but it's actually 3 pages. Okay, this is a legit 5 pages, a lot of shit in there. This is the same thing, except it's a 3-page form. The 3rd page is just the signatures. It's simpler. It's it's less. I don't know you guys. I don't know you. I don't know you. Okay, I've never met you. You call me on the phone. You're an online meeting. Okay, I'm gonna put a 5-page document to get in here. We're gonna fight. So
I don't know if you
So-
know this, but we can't see anything on the Zoom.
you can't see
You're
anything.
all we see is like a make-believe background. And then you're just not even in the screen.
And you're
we don't see that
the
screen.
first person to share that with me?
I'm sorry. That's why I came in here. 'Cause I'm-
Well, I don't know how to fix it now. It says I'm sharing it,
See it
so.
on the Zoom.
Well. Okay, that might be a you
yeah.
problem. So,
Now you're really gonna do it.
again, Misty, another you problem. Okay, so I've got this. I'm like, hey, this is gonna be easier. Because I don't know you guys, so instead of, and again, I'm weak. Instead of putting a 5-pager in front of you, I'm gonna put a 2-pager in front of you. What does that do? Oh, by the way, we're only gonna commit to 30 days. It's only gonna have these 3 properties, which, by the way, it's not even gonna have these 3 properties. It's only gonna have 1 property. Why? Because you only called on 1 property. The other format, you gotta sell me anything. Now I get to say, okay, Scott, you want to see 123 Main Street? I'm gonna type in 123 Main Street. I'm gonna put it in a 30-day agreement. And you're gonna agree to pay me X. You have to have that conversation? Yes, you do. Okay, but maybe that's easier. Lance, why are you going the easy route? Because weaker agents go the easier route. Weaker agents aren't you. This is what Leak and I kind of had a discussion. There's no doubt in my mind, many of you are like, forget that. I'm going gold standard, man. I'm going this, I can do it, I can sell it, I got it. But I'm weak, so I go that route. Okay, I think it's easier. Or who's actually seen the Zillow form, the property touring form?
Oh, the old.
Well, I can't remember what the old one looked like. I've been told that the old one and the new one are materially the same. I'm not really sure exactly what happened with CAR or the DOJ, but apparently nobody went to Zillow last week and said, don't use that form in California. 2.5 months ago, someone went to Zillow and said, don't use that form in California. So the new form, if you haven't seen it, which, by the way, I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, because that form, I can now go to my clients that I've never met and say, hey, maybe you've heard about this new stuff going on. But in order for me or any agent to actually stay compliant and show you these properties this afternoon, I need you to understand the process, and I've created this form, or Zillow has created this form.
You like
Maybe.
it in the form of you being a weak buyer's agent, is that your example?
Yep.
Okay, but do you like it as being a listing broker?
I like it either way.
Okay.
I like it. I'm not a weak agent.
No,
You guys are gonna.
your example,
Okay, but let me use it in that, let me use it in that example. Let me do the weak agent, then I'm gonna do the strong agent. So I'm super weak and I'm gonna go the easiest route. And the easiest route is, I'd like to show you this property today. To stay compliant, I've got to give you this form, which, by the way, any agent's gonna give you a similar form. And if you would just please execute this and I'll show you 123 Main Street. Oh, and by the way, you're no commitment. It says right there, you don't have to pay me anything. You're not financially obligated to me. This is a touring agreement and it lasts for 7 days. Okay? I think a lot of less strong agents will go that way. Okay, because it's just easier, which by the way, if you're, I'm a consumer and I'm a strong consumer. I'm not a weak consumer. I'm a strong consumer. And I'm throwing out some feelers. I'm on Zillow. And you think for a minute you're the only agent I'm talking to? No way. And I talked to 3 agents. I talked to Leap and I talked to Rachel, and then when we signed this 5-page agreement, signed a contract for 90 days, and I'm gonna pay them that. I don't know you. I don't know you. And then I talked to John, and he's pretty strong as well, but he's like, well, hey, we're gonna go the easier one. And John says, I'm just gonna limit it to the house you called about, and it's only gonna be for 30 days. Oh, but by the way, you're gonna, I'm like, I don't know you. I never even met you. I don't know you. And what are you gonna do? I'm gonna meet him at the house and you're gonna pull this form out and put it in front of me? I'm a strong buyer. No, ain't signing that. No, ain't signing that. Or put this other form. You say, hey, Lance, I'd love to meet this. There's some rules out there. You're not gonna owe me anything. This just keeps me compliant. It lets me show the property. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'll sign that. Let me get to know you. And then I met you and I like you.
No, let them get to know you.
And well, both ways. I'm the strong buyer right now.
Oh.
I'm the buyer. Let me get to know you. I've seen the property. I got you. So I think this goes both ways, but let me answer Chris's question, then we'll go to Cindy.
Well, then just one more thing on the Zillow thing too. They're putting out a bunch of material for the buyers. And then that form is actually handled completely through the app.
Oh, yeah.
In the house, we don't even have to have that conversation. I want to see 123 Main Street this weekend on Saturday.
Yep.
It asks them, are you represented by an agent? If they say yes, that tour request ends. If
Yep.
they say no, then it sends them the form through DocuSign
Yep.
and they sign it. Our side of it's already signed and we have
Yep.
an agreement.
Okay, we're still gonna get to the Drew and Rachel conversation a minute ago, but by the way, can we all agree that we may not be the ones who set the standard? Is it entirely possible that,
Zillow's opportunity on this, I think, is
No,
insane.
listing agent says, I don't give a shit about the Zillow form,
Yeah.
send me the
Yeah.
RBC.
They may not.
Because
They may
this
not.
Here, all that's doing, what Zillow is, all this has done is allowed Zillow to do what they've always wanted to do, which is turn real estate agents into door openers.
Release liability from Zillow,
Yeah,
and say,
so-
do your thing.
This is, and if I'm a listing agent, that does not fly with me.
okay,
You send me,
different,
Is that being a fiduciary to yourself?
Wait.
Allowing access?
wait, it
Wait,
does,
wait, wait,
it does,
okay,
because
we're gonna get to that one
because
too.
if somebody, if a buyer was serious, what that does is that I'm providing more value to my seller because I'm not letting all
Okay.
these Joe Schmoes who aren't.
But this is the
affiliated
deal.
with this-
Okay, so we're still gonna get to the Drew and Rachel conversation in a minute. I love where this is going, because this is where we're gonna be.
You better get to see me first. if I do.
Well, no, Cindy, let's do you, because I don't wanna go too
Okay,
far.
I do
off.
have a question.
Yes,
So there's a rule 9.1
oh my God,
put out
rule 9.1.
that if you show a listed property.
Where's the
without-
rule from? Is this, what rule is this? This
It's
is
off of CRM.
this is MLS rule, okay,
If you
got it?
show a listed property without a written compensation agreement, you can be fined up to $2,500. So that private Zillow form, that is not a compensation.
I think it actually is. I went to dinner with Ed Zorn, the attorney who wrote that rule. We had this exact same conversation last week. We're gonna see. But it is a private compensation form, and it says you don't have to go. But it's compensation. I'm agreeing to show you the property for free. Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Of course you are. It is a compensation form, it just doesn't have a number on it. So I want to get to Rachel's point there for a minute. So Rachel's a killer, and Chris and I had a similar conversation yesterday, I think. And at some point, let's fast forward 2 weeks from now. And now this buyer, Scott, that I started working with 2 weeks ago, and by the way, he initially signed this form. And then we went around and around, and then 3 or 4 days later, or on day 7, because that form expires after 7 days. We're still chatting. I'm like, all right, dude, hey, we've been dating. I think you're awesome. I think you're responding to me. we did that touring form, that worked for the last 4 or 5 days, but now we gotta do something else. Now, and hopefully, my client is like, yeah, got you, and then I graduate. And frankly, if I start with this, I probably graduate to this. If I start with this and I'm within the 3 properties and I'm within the 30 days and I guess I stay there. I don't have to graduate, for that was sufficient. But I graduate. But let's pretend I don't. Let's just pretend we're doing that. And it doesn't take 2 weeks. It takes 4 or 5 days and we're still operating under this agreement. And now I'm like, okay, you love Rachel's house. And maybe I haven't done anything in conversation. I don't have this with you. Now with, assuming I want to get paid, this is the problem.
No, you said you do it for free.
Well,
That's
but
what
I,
was
but
saying
I did it, I
prior.
said I'd do it for free for the first 7 days. Now.
But
Scott
what if I
wants-
find the house on day 3?
Yeah,
Well, then I have to turn to you and say, hey, dude, this is a touring agreement. Oh, now you want me to write an offer? We can talk about unrepresented buyers for a long time. Oh, boy, man, oh, man, have I got some comments on unrepresented buyers. Well, let's argue, well, let's do 2 options. I turn to Scott, hey, it's day 3, you'll love it, rock and roll, baby, let's do it. Oh, by the way, we need to talk about how I'm gonna get paid. We've tap danced around it. We gotta remember I'm weak. Maybe we haven't tap danced around it. Yeah, I've avoided it. Yeah, I don't know what to say. So, but now we're there. And then I need to, on day 3, I need to choose. This would probably be fine if I know, hey, he's definitely writing an offer on Rachel's property. This is good enough. That's 123 Main Street. Boom, I write it in. What are you gonna agree to pay me? Let's just say we land on 2.5%. I know I fast forwarded over a whole bunch, but let's suppose I don't. Let's suppose we haven't done that. We're still over here. I go to Rachel's listing. By the way, I've shown it. What are you gonna stop me from showing your house? Are you gonna make every single agent who wants to show your property provide a BRBC before they show it? You, as an agent? If you are, I think you are in the top 1/2 of 1%. You cannot show my house unless prior to showing my house, you send over a BRBC.
It's no different than saying you need to send me a pre-approval.
Before I show your house. I'm not talking about sending an offer. I'm talking about showing your
Show
house.
me a house.
I say, I get pre-approval requests all the time before they show a house.
yeah.
From listing
me, that's-
agents?
Well.
Okay, well, who's a listing agent here that says, do never show my house without first sending me this?
Never, it depends on the house.
That ain't never gonna happen.
It depends on
Nobody's
the
gonna do that.
convenience.
Well, you talk about
Maybe in
living
this
in
new
your
world though,
huh?
you're talking about the old school world, maybe in this new world, that does happen.
Is that in your client's fiduciary? Is that in your seller's best interest? To say no one's gonna share a house and let us send me this? I don't believe it.
Rachel had a good argument towards that. I don't know. I can't think.
But
of
I
anything
took it
else
to
on
the
any
extreme.
That's-
Yeah.
I would say the same thing. I'm not, I of course would never say never.
Okay.
Like, it's not so black and white that it has to be all of this or none of that.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, if I have a listing, and of course it depends on the house and of course it depends on the market.
Yep.
If I pop a listing on and I have 15 calls in the first day and 7 of them send me the Zillow form, no, you cannot come see that house. Send
Who's gonna
me-
do that? Who's
the
gonna
other
do
one.
that?
Because I have, the competition already exists for the home. and if
But
the
why would you
buyer-
not let me see it?
But you don't.
Or what, let me
We
rephrase
don't
it. Why
like
would
you,
you not,
you're
why
a
would you
weak
not let,
agent.
but why would you not let?
Just, yeah,
Why-
you're a weak
Since he said
agent,
it.
we don't
But
want
I
to
have,
work with
I
you.
have a strong buyer.
Yeah.
This weak agent has the absolute best buyer for your house.
Let's
Have
let her
you
answer the
worked
question,
with
because
somebody?
I think I'm with
Yeah.
Robbie, I'm confused. Why wouldn't you allow them to see it if they have a private Zillow form that says the agent's gonna work for free? Why is that harm to your seller?
Because that's not real. You're not gonna work for free.
There are a
It's
lot,
not real.
you are, guys,
They'll still
That puts
submit
you in
the
a
offer
stronger
with the
position.
BRBC later.
As a listing agent?
No,
That puts you in a stronger
I don't
position.
think so, because
Think so.
so if I get a call from Zillow and it's a buyer.
Yep.
Hey, I wanna see this house, absolutely. Do you have time today to come in my office? I like to sit down and explain to you. Everybody knows. Like, I get asked all the time about the DOJ, like, it's out there, everybody knows it's there. Come sit down in my office, let's just have a quick chat about it, or if you have time on the phone, I'm happy to go over it on the phone.
you're talking, this is you
This
representing
is
the buyer.
me representing
Yeah.
a buyer.
Because you're a rock star.
Okay, I'm gonna send you this form to sign.
What,
Okay,
you're the touring form.
The, no, the
The
BRBC,
okay.
yeah, this is what it's gonna do. So if I get, it, again, it depends on the house, but if I have all these Zillow buyers, these Zillow agents and their buyers, most of them not approved, because I've been with Zillow for 10 years.
Okay.
Most do not come approved, most have no idea if they can qualify or not. So it depends, of course, on the house. If I have a vacant house and I've had 2 calls, by all means, please go show it and I'll hold your hand through the process.
Okay.
But
Oh.
if I,
Really?
OMG.
Monster.
You call Eric,
But-
I think I'm in that list now.
Wow,
You're trying to avoid the heat. Yeah.
okay,
but do you see what I'm saying though?
I do,
That
but I
when-
think
when
that's,
there's
I do not think that is
competition,
gonna be the,
I don't think there,
Scott, don't judge us on our pest control service here, please. Good Lord.
I don't. Again, it depends on the house, it depends on the demand.
Okay, this is the deal, on this topic though, if I wanna hear that, which by the way, Brandon's I've had 6 agents in the last 5 days. 2 of them on listings, hey Lance, let's talk it through. 4 of them buyers writing offer, these are agents in our office who wrote offers in the last 4 days without a buyer representation agreement. We kind of skipped, like, okay, we're in that area, where, huh?
It's not required.
Well, right, but it's like, what do I have to do? Like, well, next week, and what now? So at any rate, not required just yet, but something tells me after August 13th, I'm gonna have agents calling me saying, okay, I've written an offer. What am I gonna do? Should I use the SPBB? Which again, well, yeah, use the SPBB, but these agents are gonna say. Listing agents, okay, that's cool. I like your SPBB, but send me your BRBC. That's gonna be another interesting. I wanna know. I wanna know how many people are going to Cindy's point. Rule 9.1.3.6 requires, oh, by the way, rule 7.2.3.5 requires. That's wonderful, but I think that's gonna be a very, very small percentage of the agents. So I wanna get back to, I even forgot what we were gonna get back to. So what Drew and Rachel were,
We were just talking about, how to handle the listing side of it. So if the listing agent is getting a call from the buyer's agent.
Okay.
What's the concessions that are offered?
Right, so.
I think as a listing agent, send me that BRBC first, because I'm not gonna negotiate against myself. If you have a BRBC in place that says $10,000, but my seller was willing to pay 15.
so let's in 30 seconds get back to my example we spun
Yeah.
off. So I'm not the strong agent. Okay? And I talked to Scott and I talked to Sherry, and maybe I start here with no comp. But then a couple days later, I suck it up and we chat, but I'm not strong. And I'm like, well, geez, how about 1%? So we do 1. And then I'm calling around and then again, Rachel, what compensation are you offering? Rachel says 2.5. Okay, and she, oh, by the way, if you're gonna bring me an offer, show me your BRBC with Scott and Sherry. And now what? What's the rule say, Cindy?
1%.
Well, that they redrafted to 2.
The rule.
Yeah.
Stop. This is important. Stop.
I would already have it before.
So you're not gonna-
offer.
Cindy, wait, stop. Cindy knows the rules. So I have a 1% agreement with, there's a caveat here. So for those of you ready to jump on me, just let's do the rule and then let's do a comma. She's willing to pay 2.5. She's told me that. I have an agreement with him for 1 because I do. How much can I get paid, Cindy?
Well, according to that agreement, 1.
Yeah, why don't you just
And that's
redo
the
it
reason
though,
on
now
the
that you know.
BRDC, but you can go back and get a new one signed.
I get a new one.
Yeah.
So now I go back to Scott and say, hey,
Is that ethical?
Scott, this is the deal.
Right?
You agreed to pay me 1.
That's
But the
ethical,
house you want,
Rachel.
hold on a minute, but the house you want, they're gonna pay me 2.5. And it's not gonna come out of your pocket, and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Wait a minute. Calm a butt, okay? So can we go back and modify our agreement to 2.5? Because then I'm gonna get 2.5, and you like me, right?
Who's having that conversation? Seriously,
Well,
who is having that?
Which conversation? To raise it?
Like an awkward conversation.
Because now you look totally unprofessional.
You got it?
So, okay, so I'm
We
here
agent this.
with Chris, he's my buyer, I'm all, Chris, 1%, Chris, yeah, sweet, and then I'm like, you're not paying for it? And they're gonna do 2.5, so do you mind? I'll just put it in with the other 60 pages you're gonna sign.
You don't think anybody's gonna have that conversation? I think,
Black and white. get
Rachel, I
some
think a
people-
lot of people are gonna have that conversation.
100%, especially if the listing agents are.
There's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna have.
I think the
conversations.
best
That-
practice is
And
not
I
to
agree,
disclose
I
at
think
all.
they are gonna have that conversation, but I don't think most listing agents are gonna disclose that they're paying.
I would,
Correct.
yeah,
I don't think anybody's gonna say that.
Right.
It causes
So,
too much
by the way, again,
It's not a fiduciary.
we're gonna,
Drew said
If you
something
can
that-
save them money, if they're gonna do it at 1%, why would you put your seller in?
Go back to the beginning and how many people are not showing your listings because
No,
they don't know you and maybe you're offering 1%.
If you were a buyer and saying, I want 123 Main Street, and that you're as Lance weak agent isn't gonna show me, I'll go find an agent that's gonna.
That's fine. On the reverse, and again, I'm ignorant, as a buyer's agent, can't you just say, hey, we're gonna put 3 on this paper, just so we can go
in the beginning,
cap out?
in the beginning,
Yeah.
in the beginning, yeah, okay, but
You need to.
let me say, let me protect the last side. But again, I'm weak,
I know you're weak.
I'm weak,
I get
okay, but let's pretend I'm strong. Wait, I'm strong,
Okay.
okay? And I go over here and I say, okay, but hey, you're gonna do the 3%. I know you don't have any money, but you're gonna give me 3.
We're gonna roll the dice.
We're gonna roll the dice, we're gonna see what we can do, because you like me, right? I'm glad we get 3% school. Buyers can give 2 shits about this. What you got, they don't care if you got 1%, 2%,
They didn't
3%.
even know what you got.
They don't even know what you got, which is also part of the problem.
I know.
But they didn't give 2 shits. So now I do, which by the way, a lot of buyers agents are saying, well, let's go this direction because of Cindy's rule. What rule is that? 7.2? We're gonna start at 3. We're gonna see what happens. Now, again, I'm gonna go to Cindy. He's agreed to pay me 3. You've now said 2.5. Okay, dude, I got 2.5 over here. You're gonna pay me 3. You are gonna cover that extra half a point, right?
Well, we'll just drop it. No.
That's what the contract says. Right, that's what the contract says.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so, but the answer is no.
No.
Yeah, who's gonna have that
On a
conversation?
financial disclosure
Is-
statement says that.
That conversation.
I think there'll be a lot of this. Let's go back to the other one. Okay? It's 1%. This is what we agreed. By the way, this is a $2 million property. Let's get out of our heads that we're talking a $500,000 property. Who's gonna work for 1% on a $2 million property? A lot of you. Because you do all the time. All the time.
I covered it.
So I get a 1%, I'm happy with $20,000. Rachel says, well, hey, man, I'm high end, I'm luxury. I don't play that game. 2.5%. Wow, 2.5%, $2 million property, cool. What is that, 20, 40, 50,000 bucks, 50 grand. You agreed to pay me 20. Hey, dude, would you do this? And he's gonna say, how much are you gonna pay? I said, well, I got 50, you agreed to pay me 20, I'd like to get a little bit more. And you know what you're gonna say? I just got a phone with Randy. I got closing costs, which by the way, we're doing this in the, we're doing this.
That's why
in
you
the
guys have to
context-
know me better. I would never do that to you over the phone, I promise you.
But we're doing this in the context of these dollar amounts are
I know.
commissions.
This whole thing.
This is not commission, right, Scott? This is not commission.
Buyer's agent.
Well, no, go back to the 2.5%. Well, they're paying 1. All right, take the extra 1.5% that the sellers are offering and buy down my rate.
Escrow, title, Randy, Robbie, everybody else, right?
This is exactly why, as a buyer's agent, you have to be able to meet with the people up, buyers up front, articulate your value and close from the highest percentage and tell them, I might not get 3%, but
100%.
Right.
What percentage of our Asian population will do that? Shall I gravitate to my go-to? 95.5.
The top 5%, but that's always gonna be the case with everything.
But what's the case? Well, okay, let's, for argument's sake, we're all killers. We're all 5%ers. Okay? What do the 5%ers have to deal with every day? We have to deal with the 95%ers. Right? Right? Every day. It's not, we don't have a whole bunch of killers working with a whole bunch of killers. We got a very small group of killers working with everybody else.
Yeah.
And then we got these, guys jumping in here, causing trouble. Go back there. Right?
I still like the approach that was in that Tom Ferry video,
Okay.
where they basically said, don't, if you're calling the listing agent asking about what they're paying on commission, you're wrong. And I agree.
I agree.
I think you get your buyer's broker agreement. I'm gonna call a listing agent and say, hey, I'm planning to show your property. And by the way, I'm gonna submit an offer asking you to pay commission. But I don't care if he says no.
Yep.
If he says, well, it's only not paying one, I'm still gonna submit one,
Yep.
asking you to pay me a commission.
Yep.
Because if that's the only offer you got, and that's the best offer you got, they might just do that. So it doesn't make any sense to call and ask, are you?
Let me give you a real life example, and I don't even, what's the commission on the Iverness property? Is that?
It's 2.5.
Okay, I've got Iverness. A lot of you have listings like this. By the way, I talked to Celia Chu yesterday. Celia, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'll put words in my mouth. Celia's having a panic attack. Because her listing has been on the market for 2 weeks. And she's ready to accept an offer that's contingent upon the sale of the buyer's home. It's not even an escrow yet. And I'm like, reject. Yeah, but I'm like, how long's it been on the market? 2 weeks. I'm not accepting in any way, shape, or form a contingent offer on a listing that's been on the market 2 weeks. Let's fast forward to Iverness. I've got that property out in Banning Beaumont. John's had a few that have been on the market for a little bit longer. I have nothing. Okay. Paul calls me and says, dude, I got a buyer for Iverness. Maybe I say, talk to my son, man, we got, my son will do 3% concessions. Do you, okay, cool. You write it up for 3, you write it up, or 4, you don't even ask. Forget you, I say, ask, screw you, just submit it. He writes it at 4. I will tell you, pause the tape. The right offer on my listing right now on Iverness, they'll pay 4 right now. Right now. Thing's been on the market forever, ain't nobody biting. He's at this price, oh, by the way, at that price, hey, 4.5. Okay?
Yeah.
So different market, different property, different seller, different motivation. So it, don't know, goes different ways.
I think the cleanest way, you just can't disclose on the listed side.
I believe
So
that to be true.
And then if you're having trouble, and this is where I think you can play with it. It's almost like, I would do it as like an incentive base. If you can close escrow in 25 days, sellers want to pay $10,000 in concession, something like that.
How much of that do I get by closing 20 days?
Yeah, right.
You guys, we're joking about it, but I'm telling you that the concessions and the lenders, there's gonna be some things to be said about this. And if the lenders aren't saying it, the consumers are gonna figure this out very, very quickly. Well, by the way, how are they gonna figure it out? They're gonna read the MLSA form that basically describes exactly what concessions are. And the very last thing on those bullet points of concessions can be used for escrow, title, loan fees, blah, 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 and buyer broker commission. They're gonna see that. And then they're gonna talk to Randy and Robbie, and you're gonna give them a CD, and it's gonna say, oh, you got, whatever, how many thousands of dollars.
But how many of you guys are writing offers right now where the buyer needs concessions for closing costs? Just out of curiosity, I mean, you wouldn't have like, a good percentage.
I think I know the answer to that. I think the number in the MLS, it's over 50%. Over 50% of the transactions are closing and the agents are putting in seller pay concessions for closing costs.
Which is.
Or even under the new discussion.
Currently, if you just go back, oh yeah, if you go in, it's the stuff, by the way, Art and Ed are doing a seminar in a couple of days.
Home
I
warranty.
would say, but is it like home warranty? Because everybody puts in the concession for the home warranty.
I don't know the dollar amount, but which, by the way, Art and Ed are doing a thing on Thursday. It'd be a great question to ask them. And not only will they give you the percentage, they'll tell you, oh, by the way, on average, the amount of the concession is $500 or $5,000, which, by the way, you guys also know that starting April 13th, to close escrow on April 14th, there's $20,000 of concessions paid. It must be listed when you close out the property and broken down. Okay, 10,000 went to buyer's broker, 5,000 went to lender, 5,000 escrow title, whatever it happens to be. And that's new. I don't know, but what rule is that one, Cindy? It's 7.
Oh, be quiet.
Okay, so. Go for it.
Sorry, I was just gonna bring up one more point where we're on this whole thing about, do you disclose or not disclose? And I'm gonna pick on Rachel's comment a little bit, so where she said, if I've got 15 calls on there.
Yep.
And first 7 are Zillow calls, and so I'm telling you all, no, I'm not gonna show it, you can't show it because you don't have a BRBC. And you're a Zillow buyer. But you don't know that on the first call, the second call, the third call. right? So if I tell those first three, oh, no, you can't show it, and then I change my mind, oh, you know what, now it's been a week and I haven't gotten any more calls, so now I'm gonna let you show. And I've just discriminated against those
Well, yeah,
first three.
well,
That opens up a lawsuit.
hey, Celia, I see you unmuted. I just want you to know I got you. So just, you're next up, Celia.
That example I gave was assuming that that house, I had 15 calls.
But you
And
don't know
five-
until you have the 15 calls.
You know, pretty quick.
Okay,
Well, I do all mine through Showing Head, so they're gonna have to.
well, you're also a unicorn. You're also a unicorn. Okay. Let me give it to John, made me think of something. Okay, and again, I'm channeling back to yesterday. I cannot tell you how many agents within Coldwell Banker Town and Country that have basically been furious with me and furious with Drew because we would not give them information on an offer. Okay? We got 20 offers on. Shirley comes in and says, dude, don't wait. It's Shirley. I've known Shirley my entire life. We're friends. I love her. And she comes out, Shirley, I can't tell you. You're like, no, Lance. This is Shirley. Coldwell Banker Town and Country. I understand if I was Shirley at Remix. But I'm Shirley at Coldwell Banker. Okay, and what would we say, Drew? We love you, but sorry, submit. So one of the things, if you choose Rachel's model, which again, I do think it's gonna be it's not gonna be a small percentage. I don't think it's gonna be 50, but there's gonna be, you better be careful on the discriminatory side. Because I've done some deals with John. John sucks. Done some deals with Chris. He's great. Both of them call me. I don't want to work with you. Yeah, just submit you. I talked to Chris. I'm like, oh yeah. I treat Chris differently as an agent. Forget about the buyer. I treat the agents differently, which I think is in part what John was saying. I have a different standard of information that I give to different agents based upon a whole bunch of things. I like you. I don't like you. I told you, but the next day something changed. All these people didn't know this information. Now the next day, I decide, okay, now I'm going to tell everybody.
So it's not discriminatory then, something changed.
In that case, I'm.
All the time
Yeah.
anyway. If I get 3 offers and I know Chris and the other 2 come from Susie Smith at EXP.
But you gotta
and
treat
somebody
it
else.
fair though. You can't say you don't show my house.
Right, but you're talking about being discriminatory. We do that anyways. If I have a positive relationship with Chris and I know it's smooth and I know he pre-quals his buyers, then yes, everybody gets treated the same, but when you're sitting in front of the sellers and you're going through it, so I know this agent.
Yeah,
you
All
know
the
what I
time.
mean?
And that, by the way,
Like,
that's
it happens.
discriminatory in a favorable light. Yeah, I'm not saying we can't do that. We should do that.
But I'm just
We're doing
saying
our
that
job.
Your example, you changed how it's being done, but it exists today.
Well, let's be.
That's different because this is what I'm presenting the
Either way, it
offers.
doesn't matter who presents the offer, meaning like you're gonna present your offer to your seller, but it's about that buyer, the client. That's what it's all about. That's,
No, that's not entirely accurate though.
maybe not in some cases, but you can't publicly say that.
Sure, we
Yeah,
can.
But what?
This agent has 100% close rate. This agent has a 3% close rate.
Yep.
Do you want to close
But
the
it's
table
still
or
about
not?
the buyer.
It's
Again,
not. It's
I'm-
not.
and
I
you
get what you're saying, but.
Well,
But the
I- I
reverse
agree.
is-
Don't let.
But you have
you
to,
know,
but I'm not dealing with the buyer. I'm dealing with the agent who, and he's
understand
the lender, all of these
But remember, it's the
elements.
quality of the offer. Not every offer is the
Put
best
this,
offer.
put this into, so they submit an offer $50,000 above list price. That's an incompetent agent in my opinion. Because I know that I just do my property at fair market value unless they have a position to be able to cover that gap, which they don't because they're an FHA offer and minimum. So that is telling me
You
that
can
that's.
analyze the offer, unless you get it in writing from
You're
your
saying the
seller,
quality of
not
the
to
offer.
accept any more
is not-
offers. You have
Well,
to do that.
You're
not at
accepting
face
and you're
value.
presenting the offers, all the offers, and you're still having that conversation with your seller
Yeah.
at the time that you're presenting all the offers, and here's the strong and weak points.
Right.
That's different than, I told you today, oh, no, sorry, you don't have a BRVC, so you can't show it because you only have the Zillow agreement.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, another agent from that same office calls you who's only got the Zillow agreement. You say, oh, sure, go ahead and
No,
show.
no,
And then they say,
100%.
they tell their agent,
Yeah, that was, I'm sorry. We were
Okay.
talking about 2 totally different things.
well,
That
let's do this.
100%
And I want to.
You're right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna acknowledge Celia here in a minute, because I think I defamed her a second ago. So, but before we get to Celia, I love this. because we got some 5%ers in the room, okay? And we're figuring it out. Okay, well, this, I like this, but I kind of like that, or I hate this and I hate that. What is the lender gonna do? And then again, we've kind of left the buyer out of this. You know, what's the buyer have to say about all this?
They don't wanna sign that agreement.
They're not gonna sign which one?
Any of them. It puts them- they
Well,
feel like they're-
I gotta tell you, we're
That's why-
utilizing this
That's
form
why
right
he
now
does this.
in
This is
Flex,
the Easiest one.
and they're signing.
Right.
This form's only been out since Friday.
That's a build momentum.
We're using this form right now in Flex, and they're signing. I haven't had it, and by the way,
Because you
it's-
tell them they can't see the property unless they sign it.
No, the buyer's agent's not telling them that. The Department of Justice is telling them.
Yes, okay, all right, let's time out. Hey, Celia, you're up, Celia. You've been very patient. Go for it. Oh, you do want to talk, don't you? Oh, my God. How funny. Oh, you're back. Celia? Celia? Wow, apparently just Celia was flying with an open mic there. Okay, so, I love this, okay? We're gonna find out. Okay, this is what I would love to hear from you guys. Brandon and I talked yesterday. He's got a plan together. By the way, an interesting client you sold 3 houses for.
Yeah.
Celia's writing some offers, a couple other people are writing offers. Shoot me a text. Hey, this is what happened. I like this, you know, or wow, this is what happened. Really? Is this what we're gonna do? This sounds horrible. We're gonna figure this out.
Well, I'm sitting
Pretty
here
quick.
and I'm gleaning from everybody. I'm like, it's all bouncing off of me and I'm like, I'm not like stuck in, digging my heels in and saying, this is exactly what I'm gonna do. I think it's all up for
Too much up to.
negotiation
Yeah.
and, what's going on and, would I be willing if the offer was right? And like, Drew said, if you can close in 14 days or 21 days, would I be willing? And, they're gonna come in and they're gonna pay the difference, cause they really like the house. So forget the appraisal.
Yep.
Am I willing to give up a 0.5%, of my own commission to go for, closing costs or whatever?
I agree. We're a little,
So you have your BRBC, so they're gonna pay 10,000.
Okay.
You get 10,000 from the seller.
Yep.
You also have to write that into the offer. Or
well,
counter offer.
it needs, in that case, it would need to go on the SPBB, seller payment to buyer's broker. And I know we're past 11, but let's take a few more minutes and we'll see what shakes. So well, it's funny because by the way, I would recommend all of you guys go to Ivar tomorrow. I'm gonna be on a panel with the other brokers. We're gonna have this exact same conversation, but we're gonna have it with 75 realtors from probably 30 different companies. Really curious to say, for example, yesterday, I was presented with something. I don't know if I like it. I'm curious what you guys think. Okay, you guys understand the SPBB, where that comes from? I'm on the RPA. I check box 3G or whatever it is. And I've included, telling my buyer, Scott and I wrote the offer. We've had this conversation. Oh, by the way, this is what we agreed. We're gonna check this box. It's gonna spawn form SPBB. And what we're gonna do, Scott, is we're gonna, in your offer, we're gonna ask the seller to pay, which by the way, this is not concessions. They've offered concessions, but we're defining that the concession that you're gonna get, you are going to agree in the offer that that's gonna be buyer's broker's commission. Okay, so we're gonna fill it out. And by the way, starting like next week, I would imagine remember I've told you guys, ignore that box? Okay, we're no longer ignoring that box. It's been on the form now for 19 months. Okay, starting next week, if you represent a buyer, you check that box on the RP every single time. You pull out form SPBB, you put it in front of your buyer. By the way, hopefully you built up to this conversation. He's okay, this is what you're gonna do. This is what you agreed. We're gonna ask them to pay for it. You're gonna offer concessions. You're agreeing that some of those concessions are gonna come to pay me, whatever that is. They're gonna sign it. However you present it, that's gonna happen. And we get up to the seller. So the idea I had yesterday was, this is not presented by the buyer. Brandon takes this on his listing appointment. On Brandon's listing appointment, you talk to your seller. He said, all right, you agreed to pay me 3. I know you wanted to pay 5. You're gonna offer 2 in concessions. But we're gonna talk about this. right now, which by the way, if you look at this form, you know, on the top of the form, it says this form is an amendment to, and get to RPA, or get to check a box. There's a box that says other. This agent says the other is gonna be the residential listing agreement. The seller, she's saying, I'm gonna put this in front of my seller. So if I'm Brandon, I put it in front of my seller. Hey, this is what we talked about. This is what you're gonna do. You're willing to offer to concessions, but let's identify that really needs to go to the buyer's broker. So we're gonna have you fill out this form. Now, granted, the form won't have the buyer's name on it. But I know, I know, but this is this is the discussion. Isn't this great?
No, I flip that. When I have my buyer sign the BRBC, I'm gonna also bring in the SPBB.
Okay,
Here, 3%, and here's me showing that I'm gonna ask the seller to pay.
great idea.
That's the easiest way to get.
Great idea.
Smart.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, when you're doing that, but give them the entire, I know we're not here yet, Scott. But this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna show it. Hey, here's a copy of the entire offer. The offerable bidder is paragraph 3G or whatever it is. Oh, and by the way, here's the form that's going to spawn. So this, I want you to be comfortable. You just agreed that you were gonna pay me 3%. But I also, you told me you don't have the money. So when we write the offer, we're gonna check this box. We're gonna use this form. And this is gonna say that we're gonna ask the seller to pay for it. Are you comfortable now?
Right.
Thank you. You mean I don't have to pay for it? You're not pay for it. Yeah. Okay. Like that. But again, there are brokers out there that are gonna include this in the listing package.
Are we trying to-
Lambs.
Yes. First I heard of it was yesterday. I got you, Misty. Go for it.
We were just
You're-
having this discussion a couple of days ago, right? Like doing the listing agreement, and you said we couldn't put it on the listing agreement. So if the seller is willing to pay commission, then we need to be putting it on this form, not on an addendum.
This is the deal. You can put it on the listing agreement. It's kind of like what we talked about before. CAR has made some decisions that on CAR forms, they're not gonna put on the form any place for you to put buyer broker commission. Okay, so you can do, or even on the concession. Okay, so let's roll through this. This is part of contract college. I'm now doing my listing agreement. I'm Brandon. Up at the top, seller agrees to pay listing broker 3%. Bottom of page 1. What MLS are you part of? CRMLS, C form MLSA. We pull up form MLSA. Go to paragraph 5. MLSA says, if you choose to offer concessions, this is what concessions mean. Okay. Oh, by the way, are you, as the seller, going to offer concessions? Yes. Now, most of us said, well, they said yes. Well, where do I put the money? Where do I put the percentage? Where do I put the dollar amount? By the way, that was there on the previous version of the forms. See, our attorney said, you can say a willingness to offer, but there's no place on a CAR form to put the 2%. There's no place. So
Even on the ESP?
on the ESP. Well,
That's
but
made
the
seller.
estimate, well, yeah, but that's not part of the contract. That's just that's just a net sheet.
Well, yeah, I know, but
You could,
they
yeah.
don't
you-
have to write it down, essentially.
Well,
Right.
okay, well, but let's suppose I want to. I want to memorialize that 2%. I want to deal with I'm going to prepare my seller in advance. So in theory, this agent, I don't think I like this. This agent could sit back and say, at the listing appointment, we're going to do the SPDB, which by the way, on that appointment, and I know I don't live in a perfect world. I show my seller, hey, when you're going to get an offer, the goal is to sell the house, right? You're going to get an offer. This is what it's going to look like. Okay, the 17-page RPA, by the way, when it comes to commission, they're gonna check this box, they're gonna spawn this one, we can put it over here. What I've suggested to many of you, since CAR does not have a form, okay? And again, if I'm Rachel, you need to do this, by the way. If your policy is going to be, you've talked to your seller, you've educated them, you've recommended. By the way, I do think there's some recommendations in here. I don't think this is just, this is the options, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
That is not the way to do this. You're gonna say, these are the options. This is what I recommend you do. So you go, hold on, so you go through that process, seller agrees to pay whatever, 2.5%. If I'm you, and by the way, this is what I'm going to do. I'm doing on a listing agreement. I'm not gonna put it over here. I'm gonna do a 1-page CAR addendum. The addendum is going to, hold on, the addendum is gonna be to the residential listing agreement. And I'm gonna have 1.5, 2 sentences. And that's, those 1.5, 2 sentences are gonna be, this is the addendum to the residential listing agreement and Form MLSA. Sellers agreed to offer a 2% buyer concession. And we could leave it at that. Oh, and by the way, seller's authorizing me to tell the world in a fashion that's compliant with the Department of Justice settlement. I can't put it in the MLS. Well, what can I do? I can email it, text it. I suppose I could put a yard sign in the front yard. It says, sure, why not? Pool home. 3% buyer's agent commission, yard sign. Well, no, but the seller can choose to do that.
Specified.
In that particular example, on that one listing, it's not gonna happen. Well, no, I think it could happen. It wouldn't surprise me.
Sure.
It wouldn't surprise me to roll up and see, it might say 3% concession. It might say 3% buyer's agent commission. Some people might have some heartburn with that, because now what are we doing potentially?
Advertising.
Well, yeah, but you can do that individually. By the way, just for the record, Coldwell Banker could, on their website, have all their listings and put all the commissions in. We ain't doing that. We're not gonna do it.
What conspiracy?
It is a conspiracy.
So complicated.
So, at any rate, so this is the deal, guys. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. I love this.
Lance?
Oh, you're finally there. Celia, what's happening?
No.
Okay, hi Lance. There's another lady want to speak too. I'll let
Yeah,
her
go
speak
for
first.
it.
Go
Go
ahead.
for it, Celia. You've been on hold for a long time. What you got?
Okay, well, this is what you wanted to talk about what I'm doing right now. So I kind of like what Open Door has done in terms of their listing agreement. I'm actually trying to I made an offer with Open Doors. I presented it with the BRBC, the big compensation agreement, along with the SPBB, seller payment to broker compensation, which is the little brother form, along with the RPA, and also along with the BCA, broker compensation advisory form. I asked for 2.5%. I got 1.67. So
1.67. Interesting. Okay.
Open Door. So if you're dealing with Open Door and the property's been on the market for over 24 days, but I like what they put down on the listing agreement. You guys are talking about, oh, how are we going to convey that we're willing to pay concessions?
Yep.
I'm looking at the way they present it. They say seller may provide credits for allowable buyer's costs. Very simple. And then also in the private remarks, I'm probably going to just kind of basically copy what their verbiage. While brokerages will not be sharing, the seller will entertain credits for buyer's brokerage fees and any other allowable fees in the offers and negotiation. When I got the seller counter offer back, the commission is right off there, 1.67, right on the counter.
Well, did it say commission or concession?
I'll read it. Let me read it.
At
So
that
I'm
point,
just
it
giving
says-
you, let me read it right now. I just got it. This is on my seller counter offer. I figured, you know what, with Open Doors, they're a big company. They're pretty, so on the actual seller counter offer I got back today, it says purchase price, asking price was $910. They gave me $910 back. No budge. I asked for additional terms of the contract. Seller to pay 1.65% of the purchase price to the buyer's brokers. Seller will not pay any additional obligation of buyer to compensate the buyer's agent. That's flat out.
What did you ask for on your BRBC?
2.5%.
You asked for 2.5, they countered you at 1.6. Okay.
1.65. So what do you do? At this point, I'm not going to go.
Back.
I know
Well,
you
it
can
depends on
counter
what your
back.
BRBC says. You could counter back, or I could go back to my buyer, Scott, and say, you agreed 2.5, they're paying 1.6.
Yeah, I'm just saying, this
That's
is
right.
all,
You're
this
gonna
is,
cover
the
the difference.
clients get to see this as well. This is in
you
the
tell us.
seller counter offer, clients. You can come back and ask for more. At a certain point, you can either ask Open
Right.
Door to pay more, or you can ask your buyer, hey, you know what? I've been showing you properties. You better give me whatever convey your interest.
Yeah.
You need to pay me another quarter
But-
percent.
But this is a great scenario of what very well may
Yes.
happen. And this is one of those conversations that are going to be challenging. So Scott, you're my buyer still. So we did that, we were cool with the 2.5, you got your 960 offer price, everything, you got what you want. I did. I got knocked down by 0.9% on my commission. So I go back to you, shit, Lance, I already told you I don't have the money, I don't really want to pay. I'm like, well, I really need to get paid, bud, can you help me out? So let's see, how much is that? Well, we're talking, $9,000. How about we raise that offer to 919,000? And you're like, you want me to pay extra $9,000? Pay you? Now, this is the deal. If it was Randy or Robbie,
Finance it.
if it was Randy or Robbie,
Okay, 30.
because you guys have been doing this forever, right? Like your buyer closing costs, the buyer's closing costs. I got lender fees, I got points, I got this, I got that. He said, you need help, man. So Randy and Robbie, along with the agent, would sit back and say, hey, you really want this house? Or we did this loan. You gotta bump it up, gotta cover that. And we're gonna go back to the buyer, shoot it to the seller and say, man, Scott really needs his closing costs. So we understand you're stuck there. We're gonna stack. We've been stacking closing costs for lenders forever.
Ever.
Will we be stacking
Fingers crossed.
commission?
For
Our buyers, who said for sure?
Buyers won't go for it.
Buyers will or won't?
They won't.
For sure, and they won't.
I've done it. Yeah, if you've ever shown the for sale by owner as an agent, I've done that all the time.
That's
You wanna see
different
the
though
for
with
sale
the
by
for
owner,
sale by
I'll
owner.
show it to you. I'll take my chances. And every single time I've negotiated with the seller to say, we'll up the price, but you're gonna pay the commission.
You know what smart listing agents will do now? When they go on a listing appointment, when they, negotiate the selling price.
Okay.
They'll have the comps printed out like they usually do, MLS. And they'll discuss, what type of commission they're gonna charge, or they'll negotiate a commission amount. Then they'll tell the seller something like, how much do you want to pay in concessions? And sellers aren't used to getting that conversation at that point. They're usually used to waiting until the offers come in.
Yeah.
So a smart listing agent will say, well, how much do you want to pay concessions? The seller will usually say very little or nothing. Those same comps, you'll have highlighted exactly how much the comps paid in concessions.
That may be the case.
So that
6
you can
months
show
from
them,
now.
this guy
I
sold
have to
for
negotiate
700 and he
buyer's
paid
agent
20
commission,
grand in concessions, this guy sold for 600, and he
20 other,
paid
right?
15 grand, right?
And
Wouldn't that be helpful in getting the seller to pay more in concessions?
It would, it's a different conversation though, but you're not wrong. Matter of fact, I think it was Drew or somebody months ago said, it's gonna take us 6 months to figure this out.
Yep.
We'll know in January, February, March.
Yeah.
And what is Zillow done that we don't even know yet? What is Open Door doing? What do you think about the Open Door?
It's going, I'm looking at open door stuff right now. Their average commission is between 1.4% and like 1.75, nothing above 2.
Okay, so they haven't,
But as
so
of
they haven't
like 2
changed
days
much.
ago, I think probably August 1st, no percent. Basically submit for
Submit.
buyer credit.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is where, okay, let me ask you guys this. I wanna ask you this. I'm dead serious. I'm not trying to be cute. You're selling your own house.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do with this conversation? I'm selling your house and you haven't told anybody what you're willing to do. I'm gonna pay nothing. I'm gonna pay this. What do you, when you market your own property, how do you handle that? You got 5 buyers calling you. What are you gonna take? 2%, 3%, 5%? Submit. What are you gonna do?
Percent owner. I represent both sides.
It's gonna depend upon market conditions
Well, of course it's gonna depend on market conditions.
and how many offers you have.
So the market, okay, let's fast forward, and I'm not making a prediction. Let's fast forward 2 years from now, the market is just a disaster. I mean, an absolute disaster, okay? Can't sell anything, inventory's rising. Is inventory rising, by the way?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Days on market increasing? Yes, they are. Prices softening?
Yeah, that was last week and rates are different this week. Talk to me at the end of the week.
Yeah.
They are. We haven't even talked about interest rates. How cool is that? So, but let's project, who's been in a bad market? I've been in multiple bad markets. Different world. Shit, we're gonna, the last comp was 700. 675. The prior commissions were X. 5% commission to the buyer side, $10,000 bonus. You can have my Corvette if you close escrow within 21 days.
Yeah.
This is all happened. All of this has happened. We have got this mindset of everything sells quick, if not multiple offers. Buyers agents are lower value. That's also a function of.
Yeah, I hold buyer's agents in high regard.
I know you do. I hold them in lower value. And you know what? You guys know I don't mean that. Okay, but it's a 95-5 rule. Guys, this is what I think we need to prepare ourselves for. Okay. And I said this earlier. We're killers. Okay. 95% of our agents we do business with every day are not. Okay, so it's gonna be very interesting to see what they do. Okay, and what scares me with what they may do. Let's suppose you guys have who farms anymore? Let's suppose you got a farm and you know what's going on, and you got some knucklehead that comes into your farm and they do something stupid. Okay? Let's be selfish. What are you defining as stupid? They're willing to accept really, really low compensation. Okay? And then what happens in your farm? All of a sudden, are you gonna do that? Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, Scott just came over here and he's doing this, and yeah, what am I? He's a knucklehead. He's 95%. I'm a killer. Which, by the way, you say those words in a different fashion, but this is the world we're in. So whether you're getting a lot of leads, whether there's Zillow leads or other places, this is the part I'm interested to see. A month from now, buyer calls you. Scott calls me through Zillow. I want to do this. Scott says, well, dude, I've been looking for the last 3 months. You're the first person who's asked me for that. Everybody else is doing this, and quite actually, half the agents don't ask me for anything. And if you're sitting, you quote the rule, it says, who are those agents? I'm gonna report those agents, all right? They can sue you. You think we're gonna have these conversations? Have these conversations, okay? And then that same buyer, oh, yeah, I did a buyer's broker agreement. Yeah, I did that. Just like sellers do. Okay, well, my value, Scott, is 3%. Yeah, I've already signed 3 of these. None of them have asked me for 3%. You know, and you've signed 3 of them? Yeah, I've signed 3 of them. I'll sign yours. I haven't signed for 3. Are these conversations gonna happen? This is gonna happen. Okay, so we might think we're the ones who are gonna set the rules here. Consumers are gonna set the rules. And then the killers are gonna sit back and maybe decide, okay, but I appreciate you. We're not a right fit. Yeah, I'm a 5%er. This is what I need. I love you. Good luck with those other brokers, which we do every day. Right? We do it every day. So at any rate, I'm excited.
Lance, I have one thing to say.
Okay, you're gonna close it out. Stacy, go for it.
Okay, just to let everybody know that we all got an email this morning from MLS saying that there's 6 more violations that are coming out that have to do with compensation.
Awesome.
So be careful what we say.
Awesome. Yes, be careful what you say. And by the way, how are they going to enforce these? We're going to self-report. Okay? Scott's gonna tell me, dude, I was working with Paul and John and this. You're the first person who's asked me to sign a form, and you're gonna say, that was, what was their last names, those agents? And what companies are they with? Guys,
Turmoil here before they.
you guys do one little mistake in the MLS, you got a little button at the top, report a violation. It's gonna be very, very interesting to see how this all shakes out. Okay, guys, we're way over. I will see you guys later. If I missed you, call me after the fact and we'll go from there. So,